everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, Orko and Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Still crazy how that kind of became my catchphrase. I mean, I just kind of just said that a couple times, and now it's kind of become a thing. So, that's kind of weird. But today, we are heading ever so close to the end of the Dark Times era, and getting close to the OT era, or what I consider to be the start of it, which is the moment that Han Solo's introduced, everything going forward, OT era. But with this, we finish the young adult series called The Last of the Jedi, books 5 through 10 by Jude Watson. I'm going to kind of give a brief summary of every book. I don't really have that many spoilers for you. I'm going to give a brief summary of every book without, any major spoilers. Give you my thoughts overall. I have like one or two spoilers maybe to mention. I don't have that much to say about this series, but we'll get into it. Book 5 is called The Last of the Jedi, A Tangled Web. Now with this, Palpatine has some of Ferrus Olin's former friends held captive, and so he is blackmailed into working for the Empire for a time, and that is basically this book. However, by the end of this book, not really a spoiler, but kind of just a premise for the rest of the series going forward, Ferrus Olin uses this as an opportunity to be a double agent for the resistance that is trying to form right now. Last of the Jedi, Book 6, Return of the Dark Side, is another book where now Ferrus Olin is being a double agent at this point. However, Palpatine absolutely knows the little game he's playing. He's allowing him to, because, here's the thing with Vader. Vader is one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time. And if you've been following my videos, I've been talking about the expanding universe for a long time. And even still, with the, 5,000 years of history we have, Darth Vader still beats a good majority of Sith Lords. Not all of them. Some of them are more powerful than Vader. But he is one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time. However, if Anakin had not lost that fight on Mustafar, he could be at least 10 times as powerful as he is as Darth Vader. Because in Legends, the more robotic parts you have, the less access you have to the living force. So less ability, that Vader has access to that ability. And so Vader still is super powerful, but if there's two things. One, by allowing Ferrus Olin, who Palpatine knows was a bitter rival to Anakin in between episodes 1 and 2, that if he can turn Ferrus to the dark side, if Ferrus can become evil and can trump Vader, then he'll have an even stronger apprentice. Or Vader overcomes his flaws, is able to defeat Ferrus Olin, and either way, Palpatine wins. So he's going and doing another mission while also trying to be a double agent for the resistance movement that he's a part of. I don't remember if it's this book or the next book, but Zan Arbor, who was a previous villain in both Jedi Apprentice and Jedi Quest, starts to reappear and help the Empire with stuff. Why do I keep saying Legacy? I'm so sorry. Last of the Jedi, Book 7, Secret Weapon. So, this is where we get more stuff involving the Death Star without really getting into it. What our characters find out is that Tarkin is working on a secret project, of course. It's only a year after episode 3, so we're nowhere near the completion of that Death Star, but it is in development right now. And they do have a prototype weapon that is getting ready to be accessed. That's not super big or anything, but it will be used in the future to take out, an asteroid sort of thing. So, like, big, but not huge. It's not a planet-sized thing. Last of the Jedi, Book 8, Against the Empire. So, without getting into spoilers in Book 7, somebody that Ferrus cares about gets snuffed out by Vader. And so now Ferris has been working as a double agent for a couple books now, but now the dark side is actually starting to intermingle with his thoughts and stuff now that the person he cared about so much died. So now he's starting to, actually wrestle with the dark side. And could he actually become a triple agent where he actually becomes evil? You'd have to read to find out. My favorite of this whole series is the next book, being Last of the Jedi, Book 9, Master of Deception. So at the end of Book 8, Ferris is, for all intents and purposes, a new Inquisitor for the Empire. And he finds out about a couple Force sensitives around the world, and he talks to Obi-Wan sparingly because he knows Obi-Wan's in hiding. But we can do it in a secure channel. He'll talk to Obi-Wan and ask for some advice through like Holocan. And so one of the incidents that was to be reported, but he thought was of no importance because it seemed like such a minor thing that it was probably just a coincidence, was this little girl who had thrown a ball at this railing at just the right moment for her babysitter to be what the frick to the baby, because the railing was about to break, and had she not been distracted, she might have fallen over and died, because I think it was like on like a little cliff face or something. And so that was the thing. And so by this book, Ferris goes there to investigate as an Inquisitor, and has to make sure that the Empire and Darth Vader don't find out about Princess Leia and her Force abilities. So I thought that was really great. Meanwhile, during this time, Zan Arbor's working on this new, because she's a mad scientist, so she's got this new like thing she's working on that will make people forget stuff. And Vader's really interested in that because he wants to forget about Padme. He thinks it'll make him stronger if he can do that. And then we get to the finale, Reckoning. This is where everything comes to a close. Ferris Olin now knows who Darth Vader is. He knows that is his former rival, Anakin Skywalker, and goes to confront him. Does Ferris succeed? Probably not if you've seen episode 4. However, does he die? Does he live? I'll leave that for you to find out. Overall, my thoughts. I think the second half of this series is pretty good. I mean, the things that kept book 1 and 2 super good to me was that Obi-Wan was actually there. He was actually on the adventure, because since, Luke was in danger, he actually left Tatooine to do this mission this one time. And the only reason he was in book 2 was because he asked Ferris to take him back, but they got stopped because of Boba Fett, which means he got to be in the adventure for the second book, which was great. But then he left in 3 and 4, and like we had an Inquisitor, which is kind of cool. I mean, at least they weren't doing helicopter blades, right? But and they went back to Naboo, which was also kind of nice, and we got to see some of Padme's family, which was kind of nice. But the problem with the series overall for me is that I don't hate any of these characters, but I don't care about really any of them. I am very indifferent to Ferris. I like Ferris, but I don't love him. I don't like him. He wouldn't be in a top 20 characters or anything. He's not bad by any means, but he's not good. He just exists. He's bland. He's plain. He's there. That we have to follow the story through. As for all the side characters, we have a couple of Jedi. One of them being a friend of Obi-Wan's from the Jedi Apprentice series, but I just don't care about him. He's not intriguing enough to me. Some of the other Jedi we follow, they're all right. They're not bad. They're not great. They are mediocre at best. And, all the new characters that Jude Watson tries to usher into the series, even with this, like, 13-year-old named Trevor, he's supposed to be like this little brother to Ferris, and I don't care about him. Do I want him to die necessarily? No, but I'm not invested whenever the sections are about anyone but Ferris. I find myself quite bored. And the only reason that I even found Ferris's parts intriguing is because the whole second half of this series has this whole double agent plot thing. And I kind of love the concept of that, and I love how that plays out. But the main character himself, I don't vibe with that much. Like, he's not bad by any means, I want to say, but the thing that kept me going through the second half of this series was the premise, which I thought was pretty cool. To have, like, oh, Ferris is trying to be a double agent. Palpatine knows the game he's playing because he's Palpatine, but he uses that to further his own ends. And, I really like that. But as for his struggles and everything with the dark side, I mean, I get it. It's nothing we haven't seen before. And I understand it, and I appreciate it. But I don't care about Ferris, and I don't know what it is, because I thought he was fine in Jedi Quest. I just don't think he can carry a series by himself, and I think Jude Watson did a phenomenal job of Jedi Apprentice with writing Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but I guess with that, at least she had a basis to go off of with those characters, that she could play off of and make her own thing out of it. Jedi Quest was not nearly as good as Jedi Apprentice, but still, the writing in that was superb. But we also followed Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and we got to follow Obi-Wan and Anakin, sorry. And we got to follow the 10 years that we didn't get to see in between episode 1 and 2. In this series, we get a lot of cool things. Dex comes back, we get Astri back from the Jedi Apprentice and Jedi Quest series. We have Tarkin pop up. We get to see Bail Organa when they go to Alderaan, We even have Winter mentioned here for a second, which put a smile to my heart in my face, because Winter is, she's not a huge character in the post Return of the Jedi stories, but she is, like, she's always around. She's one of Leia's, like, best friends, and she always babysits the 3 kids that she has. So I just, I appreciated seeing her here now. And then all the stuff they did with Vader was great. I mean, Jude Watson again knocks out of the park with Anakin / Vader's character. I think she does a great job with that, because this is still a year after, episode 3. You have to remember. So while we are viewing a Vader, this is still a Vader dealing with the fallout of Anakin, with the fallout of his love for Padme and everything, right? Like, that doesn't, like, as the years go by up to episode 4, he slowly chips away at all of his humanity so he can become stronger in the dark side. And he tries to make, like, he removes himself so much from Anakin that he even, not only does Obi-Wan do this to Luke in episode 4, but I think this is literally how Vader kind of views himself at this point. By the time of episode 4, Anakin was that's a separate person. I'm not him. That is another guy. That's not even me. I'm a separate being, basically, at this point. Like, so, I mean, when, Obi-Wan says, from a certain point of view, like, he's not wrong, because not only is that, him being misdirecting to Luke, but that's pretty much how Vader views himself. I mean, and in episode 6, he even says, that name no longer has any meaning to me, but here, that's not the case. Here, he's still struggling with that Anakin side of him, and he's trying to overcome that to become a better Sith Lord. And so, with that, I think Jude Watson knocks it out of the park. And again, I have yet to see, even in the worst books, even in the dreck that was the Clone Wars tie-in books with the Gambit series by Karen Miller, which is the absolute epitome of garbage and trash. Not even she failed to make Palpatine good. There's not been a single author that I think has really made Palpatine suck, which is an achievement, because Palpatine is great. And so that, again, I mean, Palpatine's not in a lot of it, but it works here. There's also, I like this little in-between state where we get to see, like, resistance movements forming. Because, yeah, there were resistant movements that tried early on into the Empire, but they failed. And they even gave an irrational explanation besides just, like, oh, we'll wait till the time is right at the end of episode 3. Like, there were logical and justifiable reasons for why you shouldn't have, like, a big resistance movement to years down the line, like by the time of episode 4. Why? Because this is a year after episode 3. People are still dealing with the economic and political backlash and repercussions of the Clone Wars. A lot of planets that would like to fight against the Empire simply don't have the means or the resources at this time to give a good resistance. So while I can understand people like, we need to fight now while the Empire is not fully in control before they gain full control of the galaxy, get it swiftly. It's unrealistic because, you can have resistant movements on a couple planets, a couple systems, but that won't be enough. You need an army like size resistance. And that takes time, that takes building, that takes planning, that takes resources, that takes money, takes connections with people. All stuff that the Rebel Alliance would form over time. Even now, at this point, they are probably doing that, but they're going slow. They're not trying to go in and attack right now like the resistance movements we see now are. There's even the other one in the Coruscant Nights series, the Whiplash movement, right? Like little insurgent cells, insurgent cells doing stuff, on Coruscant. It's like, you are being a nuisance to the Empire at best, but you will never be a true threat until you can organize a full military size resistance, which is what the Rebel Alliance would be able to do down the line. So stuff like that, I appreciated the politics of that, and giving a justification for why it takes so long for a resistance to form and for it to actually do something, because that does make sense in the context of that of that being explained to me. But yeah, overall, this is a mixed bag. Do I think this is a bad series by any means? No, and it is for young adults, but Jedi Apprentice and Jedi Quest were so good that this just lose the bar for me. But I mean, do I think it's worth reading? I mean, I do. I think you should form your own opinion. I was not a big fan of most of the characters in here. And I don't know, maybe that's my fault. I don't know. I mean, I tried to have an open mind. I had no intention of hating any of the characters or disliking them. I was fine with Ferris and Jedi Quest, so I was hoping I would like him here. But one thing I will say, because Matt Wilkins went completely off of memory during his first EU review, he'll probably feel different, hopefully, going through the series a second time when he gets to it. But Matt is absolutely wrong about Ferris being a Gary Stu. He is not by any means this perfect character. He loses constantly, and he never, ever, ever beats Vader. So I don't know where he's getting this idea that he's just like tricking Vader left and right. It doesn't happen ever. So I think Matt was high that day when doing those reviews. But yeah, overall, a decent series. Nothing horrible. Nothing great. Nothing, it was a decent little series in between, episode 3 and 4 during the dark times. But after this, we finish off the Coruscant Nights trilogy. However, there is a book that is technically a continuation of that trilogy of books by Michael Reeves still, and a co-author, because at this point he was dealing with some health issues. But I'll tell you the funny name after I finish my next review of Coruscant Nights, because you'll get a kick out of it when you realize that episode 8 was not original with its titling. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to get into slight spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, now is your time to go. I appreciate your viewership, and I appreciate you watching this review, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. If you don't want spoilers, now's the time to go. Really, all I have to say spoiler-wise, I do like that in episode, or the book 7, I didn't like it, I should say. I like how it went for Ferris and his character with his best friend. You can interpret it in many different ways, and we'll get into that in a second. But his best friend dying at the hands of Vader. Now I gotta get into this because I feel it's necessary just to reference it. Ferris Olin is gay, at least according to the author. Now it's very subtle, very, very subtle. Blink and you miss it. But if you pay attention, that was the intent by the author. She has stated this on numerous occasions, that she intended Ferris to be gay. Now, I'm not getting into a discussion about anything about that. I am a religious person. I am a Christian. I'll leave it at that. I want to praise this book because if this was written today, it'd be shoved down your throat and it would be the main point of his character. Instead, it is a blink and you miss it fact about him that is not dwelled upon, is not even addressed. It's there if you want it. There's also enough supporting evidence to deny that claim if you feel the need to. But it's not shoved down your throat. It's there. And you can go about the story enjoying it because Ferris, while I don't particularly like his character, and that's not because he's gay, don't freaking twist my words, I just don't find him that compelling. That being said, he is a decent character, and he would still be a decent character with or without that fact about him. However, I mean, there is evidence to both sides of him just being a really close friend to Rowan, in the same way that Samwise Gamgee and Frodo from Lord of the Rings are just best friends, because they do call each other, or at the end, when Rowan dies by Darth Vader's hands, he even calls Ferris brother. Kind of a weird thing to call your partner. However, there's also stuff that opposes that view that I just said, because when he goes to see Rowan's family, they kind of treat him like family, like a son-in-law or something. However, you could also just chalk it up to he was a really, really close friend to Rowan, and so he's a really, really close person to the family because he never had a family of his own because he grew up at the Jedi Temple. You could kind of make any argument you want with that, but I'm just taking into account what the author has stated outside of it, that's what she intended. But in the same way that Troy Denning has said that Verget in the New Jedi Order series is a Sith all along, if it's not in the book, I don't have to accept it. However, there is stuff in the book that leans credence to that idea, but you don't have to accept it if you don't want to. I'm not trying to be a bigot or anything. I'm just saying, like, if you are somebody who feels uncomfortable with that for whatever reason, you won't notice it really, unless you choose to see it. But that was the intention of the author. So I just want to praise it for not being something shoved down my throat or being his main character trait, because that would suck. That would really diminish the character he was in Jedi Quest, I feel. Because you are more than your sexuality, and you should be able to, have a character outside of that. Like, gay, straight, whatever. If your character is interesting despite those facts about you, then you have a good character. If your character is nothing without those traits, then you have a nothing character. That's my view on it. That being said, I did feel something for his loss there with his friend. The next thing that I really loved is just the fact that he got to go to Alderaan. And I love that we got to see more Bail, that we got to see a little baby Leia. And I love that by the end of the series, he just pulls an Obi-Wan. He does what Obi-Wan's doing for Luke, but for Leia. He swears to live on Alderaan for the rest of his remaining years to watch over Leia and make sure that no harm comes to her, just like Obi-Wan is doing for Luke. And I love that idea. I mean, it's kind of shoehorning your character into things, however, because he's not in episode 4. However, I know that there's a series that comes out after episode 4, but before episode 5, where he does come back. And so I guess he'll hold true to that promise. And so I thought it was a decent way to end it. I never thought about, like, why doesn't anybody watch over Leia? But I kind of like that there is somebody watching over her now, and I think that's kind of great. So, yeah, overall, I thought the series was decent. It's not horrible. It's not great. It's just kind of there. And it's there if you want it. And this, somehow I ended up talking about this a lot longer than I planned on with almost no notes. But whatever. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you when I review Coruscant Nights, 3rd book. Till then, guys, may the Force be with you.